Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents Podcast. We talk about multifamily, passive investing, big goals, motivation, and how to attain and achieve, among other things. So I'm super excited to have our next guest, Mr. Tim Bratz. And Tim, welcome to the show, man. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey, Abel, I'm excited to be here, buddy. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I know we have some multiple acquaintances, and I've heard you on, multiple podcasts, and I've seen some big things that you're doing. So I definitely want to let you introduce yourself so that way you can share a little bit with the listeners. But, before you kick it off, man, Tim is an amazing asset and resource. So if you are driving somewhere, you can't take notes, take a moment when you get home, grab a pen and a piece of paper. If you can take notes now, I would highly recommend doing so. He's a managing member in over 4,000 units, $350 million plus of property holdings. So in his portfolio, he's the CEO and owner of LegacyWealthHoldings.com. So you can check him out there. And I know you have some huge billion-dollar goals. I've heard you, multiple times talk about thinking big, mindset, raising money, building teams, designing lifestyles. Man, I'm excited to jump in. So let me turn it over to you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and, where you came from and what you're doing today, Tim.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks again for having me, and thanks for all the value they're always putting out there. So, high level on me. I'm a kid from Cleveland, Ohio. I was going through college 03 to 07. Everybody said get involved in real estate. My brother was living out in New York City at the time. And so when I graduated in 2007, I moved out to New York, and I thought you got involved in real estate by becoming a real estate agent. So I got my real estate license and ended up parking it with a commercial brokerage instead of a residential for some reason. I don't know why. And, essentially did like retail leasing and office leasing in Manhattan, and closed a small little 400 square foot lease. Took me about 8 months to close this thing. And it was a $10,000 per month lease with 4% annual increases, 12-year lease term. And, you end up doing the math on that. And there's like, man, this landlord's making about $1.9 million over the course of the next 12 years for doing something one time. And that's when like this residual income, seed got planted inside my head, and this passive income, and I think a lot of people get involved in real estate because of that allure of that mailbox money. And then, we get stuck in that transactional rat race. We start flipping houses or wholesaling houses or even flipping apartment buildings. I see a lot of people doing. And that's okay. That's cool, but it doesn't build wealth. It doesn't build long-term wealth. And so for me, I ended up falling in the same trap. I ended up moving down to Charleston, South Carolina. And, this is in 2008 now. Market just completely crumbles. And in early 2009, I ended up buying my first house after the market crash. Now, I was a punk 23-year-old kid at the time, so I didn't have any money. I didn't have any access to resources. Everybody's saying run from real estate. I had just showed up for the party. Like, where's everybody going,
Yep.
And so I had to get creative. I ended up calling up my credit card company, got them to increase my credit limit, and I bought my first house on a credit card. It was a dumpy little duplex in a tough neighborhood in North Charleston. I physically did all the work, literally got some of my buddies to help me out with pizza and beer, like that was how I paid them. And ended up flipping this house.
Which is a good motivator when you're
Yeah,
younger.
hey,
you're like, hell
works.
yeah, pizza and beer, I'm in. have a
If the
painting
why
party.
is big enough, right? If the why is big enough, the how is easy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I ended up getting my buddies to help out with that. Ended up flipping this thing, and I think from the time I bought it to sold it was like 110 days, and I made $13,000 or $14,000. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. This is the biggest check I've ever made. Let me go do it again.
Yeah.
And
So
I got into
13.
wholesaling, and I started understanding how to find good deals.
I apologize. I almost cut you off. I did cut
Go
you
ahead.
off. I apologize.
Yeah.
13K on a credit card. That's, you asked them for the extension. You go do this deal, and it was, like you said, I think I've heard lowest price on the MLS. You go buy the deal, and then you freaking put it together, and you just doubled your money. Light bulbs go off, I guess.
Yeah. Dude, it's one of those things where I don't know if I didn't know what it was called until just a few years ago. And I heard I think Tony Robbins or somebody say, like, a lot of people say they can't do something because they don't have the time, right? They don't have the money. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the resources to do it. Resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. If you are resourceful, you will find the time, you will find the money, you will find the knowledge. You can go out and figure it out if you're resourceful. And that's just how I've always been. Like, I think a lot of people say, I don't have the money. And when you make a statement like that, it shuts off your brain from trying to work anymore. Yeah. Versus asking yourself a question, I think, is the best way to create resourcefulness. If you say, how can I find the money? That leads your brain down a path of asking more questions or leading to better answers and better questions. And if you ask yourself questions of how can I do something? Or how could I make it work? What happens if my hands are tied, and I got to go a different direction? Like, all of a sudden, you're becoming more resourceful because you're thinking and navigating your way down this path that a lot of people just end up stopping at the get-go. And that's something that I guess I've always kind of done it. I've always tried to, like, figure it out. I remember there's another resourcefulness thing. When I was in college in 2005, I interned for this painting company. And, it's college painters kind of thing. We go out and paint people's houses. And I was like, dude, I could do this. And so the next year in 2006, I wanted to do it. Problem was I had zero money. I had like a couple $100. So I ended up printing flyers and just going and knocking on doors. For the $100 that I had, all I did is I bought flyers with it. And I knocked on all these doors and I sold jobs, and I got 25% down payment up front. So I got all these jobs sold before the summer started. I would drive back to Cleveland, which was 4 hours away from where I went to college, every other weekend, the entire winter, and just sold jobs and lining up these deposits, taking these deposits, depositing in my account. And then with those deposits, I went and bought all the equipment when the summer started. And I could afford the paint. I bought the paint on credit, but I could afford the ladders, and I could afford the brushes, and I could afford the equipment and the tie downs for the car and all that kind of stuff when I didn't have the money before. I figured it out, right? And so I see a lot of people saying I can't get started or can't do something because I don't have the money or I don't have. Dude, figure it out, right?
Yeah,
like, ask yourself a question. How could you, that's it. How can you become resourceful and lead you down that path? Because if you always say, I can't do something, dude, you're gonna be in the same spot you're in right now for forever. So you gotta do something different to get a different result.
And I've heard a couple of your podcasts, or one that in my mind that I'm thinking about. Man, you had a journey of that resourcefulness on trying to figure out, from one job or one type of making money to another, then finding your way back to real estate. And if you haven't heard any of Tim Bratz's podcast interviews, I would Google Tim Bratz podcast interviews and go consume a bunch of them, because your story is super inspirational, super motivating, that you kind of came back full circle all the way around, to real estate, and you kind of put together this, $350 million, portfolio, 4,000 units, and you kind of figured it out. Well, I gave away a piece of my deal, a big significant chunk of the big significant chunks of your deal. And that's enabled you to go from, if I can say, just, regular average Joe kind of guy, average Joe investor, to like a super, powered real estate investor, one of the top, and I would probably in the country, I don't know, or maybe world, I don't really know, but I mean, that's freaking awesome, man. So talk to us a little bit, all those nuggets, like what lessons did you learn on your journey you've been down and out, you slept in the cars on the way, in between those conferences, and now you're like in a totally different realm. Give us an idea of, that journey and your mindset. And I'd love to hear all that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a blue collar kid from Cleveland, Ohio. Right. So I don't come from a lot of money. I never really knew need, right? Like my parents always had food on the table, roof over our head, clothes on our back kind of a thing. And my dad was fairly successful. He was a police officer, but he also had a part-time, or had like a side business that provided personnel security, and actually made more money part-time than he did in his full-time job. But at the end of the day, I wasn't given anything. So I had to figure this thing out. I was given a great mindset, a great work ethic from my parents. And I think those are two things that you can't, that's better than being given money or being given resources. And so for me, I ended up coming down to Charleston, South Carolina after I lived in New York for a little bit. And I just wanted better quality of life. And so when I was down there, I bought that house, fixed that one up. I did it again, and realized that if you can find good deals, you can find good money for those deals. And I started bringing on private money lenders. And then I started chasing shiny objects like a lot of entrepreneurs do. And I went into another business, and prior to going into that other business, I actually had 10 rental properties at the age of 25 that had produced enough cash flow on a monthly basis that covered all my operating expenses, all my debt service, both for my business and my personal life.
You're already financially free at that point, right?
I'm not rich, but I'm financially free. My monthly cash flow exceeded my monthly expenses. And I'm like, I got this figured out, right? I can go jump into any business now. So I go and jump into this other business. It was a network marketing company, right? I think everybody shies away from saying they've ever been in an MLM before, but I get involved in MLM, and it aligned very well with real estate. It was, essential services like TV and phone and internet and electricity, natural gas, all those kinds of things. And that was cool. I learned a ton. I met amazing people, learned more about personal development than anything else I've ever learned about personal development.
All the MLM companies that I've joined, man, they are big on self-development, and I think people discount them. They're hard to get into if you are not comfortable, kind of reaching out to other people. But man, on the networking side and on the development side, it's like it's like supercharges you as an individual.
Well, here's where they're smart. They're smart because a lot of people don't make money in MLMs.
Yes.
It's a fact of the matter.
Yeah.
And so they need to provide value in some other capacity to keep people coming back and buying their services or buying their products. And that's what this one company did. Like, dude, there's no friggin' margin in cell phones. There's no money to be made in cell phone. Like, you sign up 20 people's cell phone. There's not enough margin there to actually change your life. You can't even buy a burrito once a quarter with the amount of money that comes off the residuals on stuff like that. So, it's just not, there's not money in that. So you make money by recruiting more people. And I got to a point where I was recruiting a bunch of people, telling them they could do this. And I was like, I can't even do it. Like, I'm the top 1%. I'm not making any money. Yeah. I can't, tell somebody to give me $500 in the last $500. Yeah. And I can't sleep at night.
That's just no good. So, yeah. You won't be able to recharge your own battery, much less someone else's. And then you can't eat, neither can your people.
It was good personal development, but then they also had me a little bit brainwashed of like, if they don't do it, it's their own fault, not your fault, and I was like, really? So I just didn't feel good about it. I ended up leaving that company. And I was totally broke, totally like I told you, I was sleeping in a car in the back seat at these conferences. And dude, I'm in the top 1%. I'm the guy presenting at these events on a weekly Saturday meeting. Right. And dude, I'm driving out to them and I'm sleeping in my car, waking up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, going into the hotel lobby bathroom and shaving there in the hotel lobby sink because I couldn't afford a hotel room. That's how broke I was. Yeah. I was paying for gas with the coins out of the cup holder in my car. That's how I couldn't make the minimum payments on my credit card. I had $80 in my bank account and I had $25,000 in credit card debt. And I just got to the point where I'm like, dude, what the hell am I doing? I had this figured out 2 years before. This is in like July, August of 2012. 2012.
Yeah. So financially free off of single family real estate, and then invested your time, effort, and energy into the shiny object, and then That comes back to where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I ended up selling, like I drank the juice so much in this network marketing business that
Yeah.
I sold 9 of my houses. I sold my
Oh
properties because I
man.
was like, I can make
Wow.
more residual over here.
Wow.
And that
Yeah.
was like the kiss of death. That's why I had zero money.
Mm-hmm.
So I only had my primary residence, and guess what got me out of this whole mess? Real estate saved me again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
real estate, I sell my house in Charleston, and thankfully I bought it at the right price. I fixed it all up. I renovated it. The market got a little bit better. I was able to sell it. I made $50,000 when I sold my house. I paid down my credit card. I paid back my brother, who I was borrowing money from in order to cover my minimum payment on my credit card. I bought my girlfriend a wedding ring, and I moved back to Cleveland, Ohio, and moved in with my parents at the age of 27.
Yeah.
A year later, I moved out, and my wife and I got our own house. And I met some people in that network marketing business who invested passively with me thereafter. I actually had an exclusive relationship with them where I couldn't do any other deals, and they invested with me, but they had a big chunk of my portfolio. The thing that first of all, I was in a really low spot.
Yeah.
My salary with them was $3,000 a month. That's what I valued myself at in 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in a low spot. I wasn't really in a spot to negotiate, but at the same time, I also knew that I needed to build a resume again. I knew that I needed to build a portfolio and get the experience under my belt. And so these guys got 70% of every deal that we did. And I did 100% of the work. I sourced and I didn't take a fee. I got $3,000 a month. That's it. And 33% of the equity. And so I didn't take any fees. I didn't take asset management fees. I didn't take anything like that. I just kept on buying houses, fixing them up, flipping them, buying small rentals, flipping those, buying small apartment buildings, flipping those, and just trading up into bigger and bigger and bigger deals over the course of several years. And by 2015, 2016, that partnership, I continuously became more valuable. They wouldn't give any more money, so they became less valuable, and we just kind of clashed, right? And so we ended up both lawyering up. We ended up dissolving the entire company. Super stressful time, but really let me spread my wings. So in 2015, I started building my current portfolio, and primarily with a buddy of mine that I actually met through that network marketing company in Georgia. And I started bringing money to his deals and sponsoring loans for him. And at the same time, I started doing the same thing up in Cleveland with my team. Excuse me. And over the course of the next couple of years, I picked up 80 units in 2015. I picked up another 200 in 2016. In 2017, I picked up another, 150, 200, something. I'm at, 450 in 2017. And at the end of 2017, I realized, like, I'm still flipping houses too during this time. Just kind of
How many were you doing? Rough estimate in a year?
I ranged in 2015. I did 130.
Okay, so 130 single family flips, and then you're like, oh, well, let me buy a few apartment complexes. So your time is consumed on the 130, man. It's crazy.
But yeah, and then I opened up a management company. I thought that'd be a good idea. In 2016, I dropped down to like doing 40 or 50 houses that year. 2017, I jumped back up to like 80 houses. But in 2017, I also had, like I said, about 450 units. And I realized, like, you know what? I'm making more, like, I'm building more wealth. 90% of my wealth comes from these apartments, and it's 10% of my time. What if we just nix all the single family and just focus on apartments? Like, what could that do to my net worth? And that's what we ended up doing at the end of 2017.
Yeah, I talked to a bunch of people in my network, a lot of people that knew me, because I've invested since like 2008, but I've had a full-time job all the way through, an IT professional, IT sales, leadership, et cetera. But everyone has asked me, well, why multifamily over single family? And I think Tim just crystallized exactly what I tell them today. You make more money with less time. And that's at the core. I mean, everything else could be secondary, but
yeah, there's so much more scale. There's so much more efficiencies. Like, you're talking about, like, I don't know anybody that has a bigger, like, I know some of the biggest investors in the country. I'm in a bunch of different masterminds. I know a bunch of these guys. I know some people with about 300 ox.
You're all good. All good.
I know some people with the biggest portfolio that I know is about 300 single family units. It's like almost impossible to manage anything more than that. You're going to 300 houses versus I have 400 units in a single location. right? So 400 units, I go to one location. He goes to 300. I look at 4 roofs amongst my 4 buildings. He looks at 300 roofs. I negotiated with one seller. He negotiated with 300 sellers. He has 300 loans. I have one. Like, there's just so much more efficiency that comes to it. I have my property management, my leasing, everything's in one spot versus they have to drive all around God's green earth in order to get to all these different locations. So it's one of those things where, there's just more scale, right? There's more scale. It's easier to do bigger deals. Financing is easier on bigger deals. Everybody gets paid more. Commercial mortgage brokers, commercial real estate agents, bankers, property managers, asset managers, everybody gets paid more on the bigger stuff. And you just deal with A players as well. Like you're not dealing with Billy Bob the contractor and his pickup truck coming and renovating your single family house. You're dealing with an actual construction company with C-level executives and insurances all in place and doing road work and bridge work and multiple, large commercial projects that have timelines and accountability and all these things in place. So anyways, that's a tangent, but
no, it's an important one though. If I can stick to this for just a moment, because one of the benefits that we were talking about, getting off topic again, multi-level marketing, is the networking of people that you work with, and then the type of people that we improve ourselves or kind of rub elbows with. Iron sharpens iron. We learn amazing self-development mindsets, right? Well, in multifamily, that reigns very true as well, because, well, in my own experience, and I'm sure you could share yours, not even at your level, but my level, I had a lot of people help me in my professional career. We went from $5 million to $57 million in a 10X run in a professional setting, $57 million a year. I had some really first-class leaders teach me, coach me, guide me, mentor me on the professional side. And that's why we had success, right? But I had very few people that could show me in the professional world how to go to $1 million of net worth and then go to $5 million and $10 million net worth. Those mentors and coaches just never came in the professional world. So, maybe give us some of that mindset. Point. What's your experience, man?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people talk about mentorship, and I think mentorship is so important. But I've had good mentors and I've had bad mentors, and individuals might lead in one capacity, but not another, right? Like, we're in real estate. I would take financial advice from Donald Trump, but I wouldn't necessarily take marriage advice from Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
That's a great analogy, man. I'll take a lot of advice, but I'll definitely take some real estate advice. 1000%, man. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, mentors, an individual is limited, and they're usually leading in one pillar of their life, but maybe not all of them. There's very few mentors that I've seen. I think balance is kind of BS. I think there's harmony though. But sometimes, past couple of years, I've been very focused on business and less so on my health, right? So this year is a little bit changing. This year I'm focused more on my health, focused more on my family. I was back in Cleveland. I moved back down to Charleston, South Carolina. I'm coming to you from my beach house right now. I don't know if you can see the ocean out there, but
yes, we can. That's nice.
I'm much more lifestyle oriented. I went on a bike ride that was, 22 miles or something this morning. I'm paddle boarding out here. So now I'm focused more on the health piece. Business is good, but it's not growing like it was last year, So I think you can live in harmony though, I think you're always gonna be leading in one or two different pillars of your life at any given time. And so I think any single mentor is going to lead you in one aspect at that given time. But that's why I don't like single mentors. I like being part of mastermind groups. Yeah. Mastermind groups, there's 10, 30, 50 people in the group. And depending on what you need at what season or time point in your life, you can go to anybody and in that group for whoever is leading in that aspect of their life at that time. So I might go to the person who runs the group from a financial perspective, but this person over here has got their marriage and their being an amazing father all totally dialed in. And I'm going to go talk to him about parenting and spousal type advice. And this guy over here has got an 8-pack of abs, not even 6-pack. I got to learn something about health from this guy,
Yeah.
and he's got an amazing business too. And so like, how do you do that kind of stuff? Teach me. And so I like masterminds because you have multiple mentors. I have 50 mentors in some different masterminds that I'm in. And so I really love those, as long as they're held to a certain standard, because then everybody is accomplishing a certain level of business. Everybody has some certain sort of credibility or mindset or core values in place that you're going to be able to align with. So I really like mastermind groups. That has been the biggest differentiator for me in my business, because I think a lot of people think that, Abel, if I could just get to $100 million, I'm going to be all set, right? Guess what? There's another level of problems at $100 million, right? There's another level of problems at $250 million. We're going through another level right now. Like, what got us to $350 million of assets under management isn't going to get us to $1 billion. So now, like candidly, we've been working off an Excel spreadsheet managing all of our investors for the first $350 million of assets without having any sort of investor management system.
Like a portal or a tool or a dashboard.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
Like we put together pretty basic investment updates. We have our bookkeeper ACHing payments on a quarterly basis, and I have everybody's information in an Excel spreadsheet, right? Like, that's not good enough to get to the next level. Like, now we need formal reports.
Require a little change,
formal updates.
I have a friend that says, on the flip side, he says, there's no better, communication or marketing with your investors than a paycheck. So right. I'm sure that their checks have been, sufficient up to this point. But yeah, you're right. Like, okay, now you're going to move on to the next phase, and you're scaling. It's something different tomorrow than it was that got you there yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So the mastermind is key. I joined one earlier this year. I'll give them a shout out. Kingdom Capitalist Masterminds, like Christian community, commercial real estate for the most part, entrepreneurship. Ellis Hammond. And,
yeah. He asked me. He hit me up on that.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
I enjoyed the time, and like exactly like you said, we have common goals, common alignment, entrepreneurship. We want to drive, and then I learn from people that are hundreds, millions of dollars of real estate. It's kind of like you, an advisor standpoint. And then there's other guys that are not, but they can teach me about their relationship with their wife and the family side. I'm like, man, this is good. So anyways.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff, man. And let me just go back to that other point real quick is, hey, here's the cool part. You can get to $350 million in assets with an Excel spreadsheet.
For everyone that says like, I'm waiting, right? Forget about it. Just go.
Oh, I need to put this website in place, and I need to put this portal in place. Dude, just go do deals, right? Just go do deals. Your actions and your successes speak for themselves, in that you don't have to go and have everything perfect. Like, go and take action first. Like, that is the most important thing. So I just wanted to hit on that. I think that's it's an important piece. But
100%, man. That's an amazing point. Thank you.
Yeah. But I think, joining a mastermind is super powerful. That is what's, every time I hit that glass ceiling for the next level I go to, the mastermind punches me through that and reaches me to the next level, the next level. And the resources, the connections, the private money that's come from it, the deal flow that's come from it, the really just the friendships that have come from it are amazing. Yeah. And it's really, really valuable. So I love masterminds. I'm in, probably 5 or 6 of them. I don't even know. And then I run 2.
I love it.
That's how much I believe in them, man.
Oh, that's great, man. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. So let me, for everyone listening, right, for a new general partner, new passive investor, they're trying to get in the world, they're trying to grind. What's the best, like, a cheat code, a fast forward button, the best piece of advice you can say? Yeah, you're new, you're getting started. Do this 1 or 2 things just to get started. The next steps will come. But what kind of advice would you give somebody in that level?
Yeah, I think just taking massive action. I think there's I do coaching, and there's people who come through my event and they're like, you know what, Tim, I'm only want to do 100-unit buildings like you do. And I was like, listen, if you don't do 15-unit buildings, you're not going to get 100-unit buildings coming across your desk. You're not going to be able to raise money for it because you've never done a smaller deal. You're not going to be able to get broker relationships or people sending you those bigger deals. You're not going to be able to get a seat negotiating with the seller at the table because you've never done a deal before, right? Those deals don't come unless you're doing other deals. So eventually just start doing small deals, right? Like buy a 5-unit, I don't care. Buy a 50-unit, buy a 25-unit. All of a sudden, you'll find yourself sitting on 100, 200, 300 units, even if they're smaller buildings. But then that's what gets you a seat at the negotiating table for a 300-unit portfolio that, boom, you just doubled the size of your portfolio. Or it's going to give you respect in the broker community and in the commercial real estate community of, hey, at least they have something, right? Like they got something going on. They could probably qualify to buy this thing. And it gives you more credibility, more respect. And you raised money on a bunch of small deals and showed some small wins to your investors. Now they're more invested in you, invested in your company. They want to bring more capital. They want to refer their friends to you because you've cycled through a few small deals and they've seen some W's from it.
That's great.
So
man.
I think doing deals creates momentum. And all of a sudden, dude, then the 100-unit just falls in your plate. Oh my gosh, this guy got so lucky because he just came across this 250, 200-unit deal.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get that lucky? I got lucky because I do the work.
We did all the work
day in and day out on all these other deals,
Yeah.
So you got to go out and just put in the effort.
I love it. Thank you. And so on that note,
and here's the thing.
Go ahead.
I want to hit on one other.
Please
I want to hit on one
do.
other thing here. Is it's not like you got to do the work, but it's a season of your life, right? It's not like you're dedicating 40 years to working for somebody else for a friggin' paycheck in order to retire on less money than you couldn't already live off of for the first 40 years, right?
Yeah.
This is like dedicate 5 years of your life, 10 years of your life to doing deals, and you're going to live the next 35 years like nobody else ever could, and having real income, paying down principal on your, having your tenants paying you rent every month that pays down principal, that appreciates your property value, increases your net worth, covers your cash flow, covers your operating expenses. Like, do you realize the concept of buying an apartment building where other people are willing to pay you so much money that they pay for your asset? They pay to operate it. They pay to cover your operating expenses. They pay to cover your loan for it. They're paying it. And then they give you more money on top of it for cash flow for you to live off of. It's an amazing, it's just an unbelievable concept to me.
Yep.
And they're paying down your loan, and over time the rents bump up, and all of a sudden you find yourself 10 years down the road with $100-200 million of property, and guess what? It's going to double in the next 20 years. And even if you have a small percentage of that, you're making cash flow. You got depreciation. You got appreciation. You have all the other tax benefits that come with it. It's like, and you're building real wealth that way. It's unlike anything, but you've got to dedicate some time to it. You can't jump around. You got to say, hey, I'm going to put my head down. I'm not going to look left. I'm not going to look right. And I'm going to work for the next 5 years. You know, if you don't have a 5-year horizon minimum on this stuff, don't even do it.
Yeah. I've heard you say it's not a get rich quick thing. It's a build legacy wealth, over time thing. And that's exactly
Get wealth slow. Yeah, build wealth slow.
Build wealth slow. I love, so just that's what it does. It just keeps putting generational wealth, you, your family, others, and and it's a skill that's repeatable. It's systematic. you can follow the same plan, different deals, different plans, slight variations, but it's the same number of steps that you're going to, take on multiple numbers of deals. So for any listeners out there, that's, all those nuggets, hit rewind on a few of these things and get your notebook out, man. So on the, the journey, right? I heard 2015, 80 units, 2016 to 2017, another 200. You're building up. How did it go from 500 units to freaking 4,000? That's a big jump in a couple of years. What was the fuel on that fire? Like how did that happen?
Yeah. So going into 2018, I had about 450 maybe units. I'd have to go back and look at the exact number, but, and I picked up, I don't know, about another 150 units. So I was around 600, maybe 650 units in the beginning, end of first quarter or something of 2015. A deal came across my desk that was 5 buildings down in Georgia, 730 units.
Wow.
Very distressed. Like
rough.
I bought it for $10 million, 730 units.
Oh
like
my
that's $15,000, less than $15,000 a unit.
Was anybody even living in it?
Needed another 20 grand a unit to be put in.
Yeah. Was anybody living in the property?
Occupied. But it was about 40% occupied, but it was like, nobody that you wanted to stay there, right? Like nobody qualified, nobody's paying rent. It was economically occupied, but not really, it was physically occupied, but not economically occupied. So I came across this deal. It was one of these where it was too distressed or too big for any of the small guys, but it was too distressed for any large hedge funds or real estate trusts. And we had done about 3 or 4 other deals in the area, much smaller, that we proved that we could take something that was distressed in kind of that, C plus, B minus kind of an area and stabilize it, turn it all around and actually get financing on it, close on it, renovate it, stabilize it and refinance it. So we ended up winning the bid and there were people who bid a couple $1 million more than us on this portfolio, but I ended up taking that down, 730 units, doubled my portfolio in June of 2018. So now I'm up to whatever it was, 13, 14, 1,500 units at that time. And that gave me enough credibility and enough momentum where now it was like, boom, let's go. And I came across a couple other deals at the latter part of that year. That's also when I launched my coaching program and had some people coming through and they said, hey man, we got this deal, we got that deal. Will you help sponsor loans? Will you help raise capital? Will you help mentor us and coach us and hold our hand through this? And it allowed me to get into deals that I couldn't have gotten into previously, and allowed me to work smarter instead of harder. When I was buying new deals with my team had to operate those deals. And that's a lot of times the bottleneck, being at the property every day, kicking the table and yelling at contractors, meeting the property managers, making sure the leasing's being done, walking the property. Like it takes a lot of calories to manage that kind of stuff. So I realized that if I could partner up with great operators who had the experience and the time and the desire to do that, but they didn't have the money, they didn't have the balance sheet, they didn't have the experience. I could bring those things, they could do the work, and we could figure out a way to carve up the equity in a way that made sense for everybody. And I was able to get involved in a lot more deals that way. Then I created so much momentum because of that stuff in 2018. 2019 was just like insane. I picked up 2,000 units in 2018. I picked up another about 500 or so this year. So
for those that are listening to, they've heard there's the law of the first deal, which is once you get the first one, that they just keep coming. Well, for Tim, it was the law of the first 1,000. Once your first 1,000 came, man, number 2, number 3, number 4. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations on all your success.
And I'll tell you this too, like this, thank you. But I'll tell you this too, like you doing this podcast is going to generate more deal flow, more investor flow, more opportunities for you because you're out there giving value without maybe you're looking for something in return. Eventually, I think we all know that something's going to come in return for it, but you're not hunting, right? When you go hunting, the prey runs away. And when you're out there just giving value and helping people with not only their business, but with their life, all of a sudden it attracts people. People, you're magnetic, and people want to spend more time with you, and they want to be around you. And then it builds more credibility, more respect, more trust in you, and you become more of an influence in their life and in the lives of the people that they refer you to. And all of a sudden, this compound effect starts happening. I think, social media and podcasts is such an underutilized tool for what it can do for you and your business. And I think I've figured out, or at least I understand how impactful it can be. And that's like where I'm spending a lot of my time. So I love hopping on podcasts. I love being on Facebook Live. I love posting about business or wealth building or lifestyle design or things like that I can help other people out, because I know if I can help them out with something, like, I don't know, hopefully there's ways that we can do some stuff together, become good friends, or go on vacations together, or they refer me over to their friend's restaurant in a certain city that I'm visiting. I don't know, like, it could be anything. Maybe they invest, maybe they don't. Maybe they get wildly rich and they write a book and they say, it's all because I heard Tim on Abel's podcast, that I'm super wealthy. And that to me is good enough. But what's amazing, man, is like, you don't get what you give. You get back many more times what you give. And if you give and you give and you give, man, like, the opportunity is it's abundant. You couldn't stop it if you wanted to, and you don't want to, because you're making an impact. So, no, man, I think you're doing some amazing stuff here, and I think more people need to be doing the social media stuff.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for that. And kudos to you for always giving back and giving to your community and taking the time even right now to do the interview. So that's awesome. And speaking of giving back, so I know you spent some time outside of real estate working on a series of books. Man, tell me about this, because, some people are going to go Google right now and try to figure it out. And they're like, what's the real estate book? And I'm sure you may have one of those, but tell us about the ones for children, man. It's just so awesome.
Yeah. It was, I'm big into personal development, right? Like, a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about is mindset driven, success principles and philosophies that transcend business and transcend industry. And it's more about life, and making an impact. And one of those things, like, my mom has always been like a full-time volunteer. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she was like always volunteering for the school district and always big into kids. And a few years ago, I'm on an airplane. I'm reading The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, and flying home from a conference. And I'm thinking, man, these principles are so good. I'm 31 years old at the time. I was like, can you imagine if I got these when I was 21, how this would have like impacted my life? I would have gone bigger sooner. And my daughter was about to turn 2. And I'm like, what if I can instill these principles in her at a young, malleable age? Like they say, most personalities are developed by the time you're 6 years old. And so I'm like, what if she doesn't even know the difference? What if she's just born thinking big? What if she's just born with achievement, goal-oriented principles in her life, wealth building principles and ideologies that just stay with her forever? And she's like, think about how much more advanced she would get. And so I'm like, I got to find some of these books for her. And so I get off the plane, I start Google searching. There's nothing out there. Nothing. Like, there's books on money management. There's a couple things like that. There's a couple books on working hard. There's a lot of books on, the golden rule and treating others how you want to be treated, Berenstain Bears kind of stuff, which is very, very valuable. But I felt that there was a gap in there about personal development and achievement principles. And so I ended up thinking somebody needs to like write books based on all the classics, just for kids versions. And I sat on that idea for about a year and a half until I was on vacation with one of my good friends from high school. Her and her husband go on vacation with me and my wife, and our kids are the same ages. And then there's one other couple whose kids are the same age. We're sitting in the pool late at night after the kids had gone to bed, and I'm telling them about this idea, and I wish I could implement it, but I couldn't. And she's, my wife and her are super smart, multiple degrees, both of them, and very accomplished before they became moms. And then they both came home to be moms, and for at least a couple of years until the kids go back to school. And they're looking for something to do. They want some sort of contribution. And so they came up with the idea, like, how about we write the books, Tim, and you handle the business side of things, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, let's do it. And so they've written books. It took us a year to write our first book, and now we're going to have probably 4 or 5 out over the next 6 months. So
Hey,
the first book
congrats.
is based on Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, thank you. The first book is based on Think and Grow Rich. It's called Think Big and Go to Baseball Camp, and it's all about Ford. Like all the characters are named after like the titans of industry from 150 years ago. So Ford, and then there's Rocky based off of Rockefeller, and there's Andrew based off of Carnegie. There's Morgan based off of J.P. Morgan. And so they're all this group of friends, and they're hanging out at school, and they're going on vacations, they're going on field trips, and they're um, just out at summer camp and just doing all sorts of different things and engage in these different activities. And so the first one is like they really want to go to baseball camp, and he realizes he's got to set a goal. He's got to obsess over that goal. He's got to think about it every day. He's got to make sacrifices, and he's got to work hard. Nothing is given, everything is earned. In life. And you set your eye on that goal, and if you really believe in it, you can achieve that goal. And so that's the first book. It's really, really good. I can brag about it because I didn't write it, right? My wife and my other friend wrote it. And then the next book, which is equally good, maybe even better, is called, and it hasn't been released yet. It's going to come out this month. It's based on how to win friends and influence people. It's called How to Win Class President and Influence Peers. And then the next book's going to be, I think, it's already written.
That's one of my favorite books ever. I've read that so many times.
It's one of the most influential books of all time. Another one is Magic of Thinking Big is going to be in there. That's in the top 5. And then what else? I got Power of Positive Thinking. So
Norman Vincent Peale. Mm-hmm. That's a great book too, man.
Great book, and the girls did an amazing job of drafting that one for the kids as well. And then we have Richest Man in Babylon, which is called Richest Kid in the Neighborhood.
George Clason. George Clason, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We've read a lot of the same ones. Yeah. You've chosen some amazing ones. Those are like the basic staple for me.
Yeah. I think those 5 are 5 of the most influential, classic books. They've been around for 100 years. And that's kind of what I wanted to start with. So these first 5 are really, really profound. And then I think we're going to do some offshoots. I think there's going to be the girls' entrepreneur ones, and to kind of break it off into some different demographics and that kind of stuff too. And we have workbooks that go with each one of the color, like there's coloring books and puzzles and word searches and actual like workbook setting your goals out and achieving it, and what you're gonna have to sacrifice in order to meet those goals, and like all these different kinds of things that go along with the actual books themselves. So we're super proud of it. It's called Little Legacy Library, littlelegacylibrary.com. You can find the books, and we're super pumped up. It's not a moneymaker, right? It's a give back kind of a thing. In fact, for every book we sell, we actually donate one to a child in need. So trying to make an impact there as well. And who knows, hopefully whether it makes money or not, I don't really care about that. I care about making an impact. I want to instill these principles into kids, so they don't have the entitlement factor, right? Like they know what it takes to be successful and to achieve and to succeed in life. And it's not always necessarily about money, but in all aspects, in relationships, in their health, in their faith, in their anything, So I think it's an important message to get across, and we're super proud of it. So appreciate you talking about that.
Man, it's my pleasure. We look forward to checking some of those out. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. So the 2.5-year-old, we're starting to read, more and more books, and she loves it. So that'll be on my bookshelf, probably just like my classics are on mine, man. So I'm super excited. Well, I don't want to take up more time.
That's the point. I want them to have a library of their own that mirrors our libraries. I think that's so cool to be able to go out and buy a book series that like the adult version, the kids version. I think it's powerful. So
absolutely,
exciting stuff. But thank you.
Good deal. Thank you very much. Well, I don't want to take up more time than you've allotted. You've already given a ton so far, and I just sincerely appreciate it. And again, my name's Abel Pacheco. I'm with 5 Talents Commercial Real Estate. You can reach us here at 5tcre.com. Tim, if somebody wants to get in your world, they want to learn more from you, they want to invest with you, they want to, get associated, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
I appreciate that, man. I think probably just social media. send me a friend request on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. I'm very active on both of those platforms. And my YouTube's going to be, I'm really going to be dialing that up too. But yeah, I mean, I answer my own messages. Shoot me a message if there's ever anything that I can help with. And Abel, same goes for you, man. If there's ever anything that I can do, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the value that you bring and that you're putting out there. So anything that I can ever support you with, man, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And if you heard something you like today, please go to our the review page for 5 Talents, and we would love a 5-star review. Leave a little note for Tim and let him know what sparked or resonated with you as well. So we had a great time. Thank you very much, Tim. Man, we really sincerely appreciate it. This is a great show.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.